Tonight, Venezuela's authoritarian leader, Nicolás Maduro, arriving in New York to stand trial
after that daring secret U.S. mission to capture him. Video showing explosions over downtown Caracas and choppers flying over the city as the U.S. captured Maduro and his wife.
This was one of the most stunning, effective, and powerful displays of American military might and competence in American history.
These images showing the commander-in-chief watching the operation as it was happening from Mar-a-Lago, and the president posting this image of Maduro in U.S. custody. But perhaps just as surprising as that secret mission, President Trump's declaration today that the U.S. will now run Venezuela during this transition period.
We're going to run the country until such time as we can do a safe, proper, and judicious transition. So we don't want to be involved with having somebody else get in, and we have the same situation that we had for the last long period of years.
The president saying the U.S. will take back American oil facilities that Venezuela nationalized, and he was pressed. Does that mean U.S. boots on the ground?
We're not afraid of boots on the ground if we have to have. We had boots on the ground last night at a very high level, actually.
Are you saying that Secretary Hegseth and Rubio are going to be running Venezuela?
They're going to be a team that's working with the people of Venezuela. You have a vice president who's been appointed by Maduro, and right now she's the vice president, and she's, I guess, the president. She had a long conversation with Marco, and she said, we'll do whatever you need.
President Trump later telling the New York Post, U.S. troops won't go to Venezuela, saying, if the vice president does what we want, we won't have to do that. And tonight, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs revealing new details of what he called the audacious operation to capture Maduro. 150 aircraft launched from 20 bases. President Trump giving the go-ahead at 10:46 p.m. last night. General Dan Kane saying they had been watching Maduro for months.
To find Maduro and understand how he moved, where he lived, where he traveled, what he ate, what he wore, what were his pets.
President Trump describing what happened when U.S. forces cornered Maduro inside his compound just after 2 a.m. local time. That Maduro tried to run to a fortified safe room.
He was trying to get into a safe place. You know, the safe place is all steel. But he was unable to get to that door. He made it to the door. He was unable to close it.
The operation comes after a federal grand jury indicted Maduro and his wife on charges of narco-terrorism and importing cocaine. Maduro was previously indicted in 2020.
Maduro and his wife will soon face the full might of American justice and stand trial on American soil.
The president also revealing he spoke to Maduro twice.
I said, you got to surrender. And I actually thought he was pretty close to doing so, but now he wished he did.
All of it echoes the U.S. invasion of Panama in 1989. President George H.W. Bush sent the military to capture dictator Manuel Noriega, who had been indicted for drug trafficking. He was later convicted in the U.S. That operation, like this one, carried out with no congressional authorization. Today, the administration defending that move.
This was an arrest of 2 indicted fugitives of American justice. It's just not the kind of mission that you can pre-notify because it endangers the mission.
The U.S. and many other countries across the globe viewed Maduro as an illegitimate president who stole an election. His government accused by the UN of crimes against humanity. I pressed him in an interview 7 years ago.
The UN and human rights groups estimate hundreds of people have died because of your administration. They think hundreds of people have died also since you came into power. Why are people who protest you end up either dead or in jail?
No human rights organizations have made me responsible for any deaths. You're lying, Tom, he said. And now, chaotic conditions in Venezuela. Local journalist Ana Vanessa Herrero is outside a supermarket.
It's a large line, obviously filled with people trying to get whatever they can to survive what's coming next.
While in the U.S., Venezuelans told us they're thrilled.
Why are people here so excited?
We are celebrating freedom and liberty. Thanks to President Trump, we were able to gain our freedom back.
My wife hasn't been able to go home since since she was a kid. My kids have never gone to Venezuela, so this is huge.
Tonight, hours after that stunning raid capturing Venezuela's authoritarian leader Nicolás Maduro, there are growing questions about President Trump's declaration that the U.S. will now run the country.
We're going to be running it with a group, and we're going to make sure it's run properly.
But offering few details. And when pressed who will make up that group,
the people that are standing right behind me, we're going to be running it.
Saying Secretary of State Marco Rubio had spoken to Maduro's vice president, who he says was cooperative. But tonight, Vice President Delcy Rodriguez appeared defiant, denouncing the U.S. operation as an illegal kidnapping, calling on Venezuelans to take to the streets. President Trump notably dismissed that country's opposition leader, Maria Corina Machado, as Venezuela's next president. Machado recently won the Nobel Peace Prize and had been in hiding in fear of the Maduro regime. Today's dramatic developments ordered by a president who previously campaigned against U.S. nation building.
Our current strategy of nation building and regime change is a proven absolute failure.
President Trump was asked about that today.
Why is running a country in South America America first?
I think it is because we want to surround ourselves with good neighbors. We want to surround ourselves with stability. We want to surround ourselves with energy.
And Venezuela's oil is central to the U.S.'s future plans there.
We're going to rebuild the oil infrastructure, which will cost billions of dollars. It'll be paid for by the oil companies directly.
The president saying once American oil companies take back their facilities, they'll start pumping more oil.
I would expect oil prices on Sunday night, when they start trading ahead of the new week here, to be down a couple of dollars a barrel.
Still tonight, the mission ousting Maduro is sparking divided opinions. Republicans praising it.
If you're a bad guy anywhere in the world, you're waking up this morning and you're realizing that we have a military and a president who is strong and resolute in defense of our interests.
Democrats sharply criticizing it.
This is an illegal war. There is zero legal rationale for waging war within or against Venezuela without a vote of Congress.
Nicolás Maduro, now in New York, set to face prosecution, accused of leading a, quote, corrupt, illegitimate government that for decades has leveraged government power to protect and promote illegal activity, including drug trafficking.
He is a fugitive of American justice.
The indictment detailing Maduro's alleged narco-terrorism, accusing him of partnering with cartels in a massive cocaine trafficking operation, claiming he and his wife ordered kidnappings, beatings, and murders against those who owed them drug money or otherwise undermined them. Now, Attorney General Pam Bondi says Maduro will soon face the full wrath of American justice on American soil in American courts. The case against him to be brought in the Southern District of New York, where Maduro was first indicted in 2020 and where Barrett Berger formerly worked as a federal prosecutor.
My guess is this is a case that is based largely on cooperator information. You can't really bring charges like this against somebody so high up, like the president, unless you have insiders.
Maduro became president of Venezuela following the death of Hugo Chavez in 2013, holding on to power despite multiple elections in which he was accused of manipulating and ignoring results. His tenure marked by widespread poverty, massive protests in the streets, and drug gang violence.
He personally oversaw the vicious cartel known as Cartel de las Solas, which flooded our nation with lethal poison, responsible for the deaths of countless Americans.
His capture and removal now potentially to become a central point of any trial against him.
The bigger question is, are we allowed to basically invade other countries in order to capture people who have been indicted under U.S. law? And I think the answer to that is quite clearly no.
Tonight, after the U.S. capture of Venezuela's Nicolás Maduro, the Trump administration is warning other countries, hinting their leaders could be next if they cooperate with drug cartels, including President Gustavo Petro in neighboring Colombia.
He's making cocaine, they're sending it into the United States, so he does have to watch his ass.
Tanks seen lining up near Colombia's border with Venezuela amid heightened security. Petro has strongly denied any drug trafficking allegations and today rejected any unilateral military action. President Trump's hardline supporters see this as an opening for more potential U.S. involvement in Latin America. South Carolina Senator Lindsey Graham posting, with Maduro's capture, the drug caliphate is moving toward collapse. Free Cuba. The administration also calling out Cuba. Secretary of State Marco Rubio, a Cuban-American who's railed against its communist government throughout his political career, today accused the country of propping up the Maduro regime.
Look, if I lived in Havana and I was in the government, I'd be concerned, at least.
Cuban leader Miguel Diaz-Canel responding to American strikes in Venezuela today, saying Cuba condemns the actions as an act of state terrorism. And in Mexico, where President Trump again threatened to go after drug cartels,
something's going to have to be done with Mexico.
The government there also slamming the strikes, urging the UN to de-escalate tensions, adding Latin America and the Caribbean is a zone of peace. Gabe Gutierrez, NBC News, Bogota.
We're still waiting for the judge to provide those details of exactly when. We know that he is expected to appear tomorrow in federal court in downtown Manhattan. That is as much as we know at this hour from the court. We do expect it to happen tomorrow. Obviously, the fact that he is now on U.S. soil, and the general rule is that they have to present him before the federal court to hear the charges that have been filed against him. Those are 4 federal charges, including narco-terrorism and cocaine importation conspiracy. Both him and his wife are now housed here behind me at the Metropolitan Detention Center in Brooklyn, and this is it's a place that has a very notorious reputation. It's not a very nice place. It's a place that the Justice Department's Inspector General has assessed, has problems with, for example, heating. People who've been held there have complained about rat infestation. So it is quite a turn of events for the Maduros to go from what we presume a pretty luxurious circumstance as president and first lady in Venezuela to now being held at this facility here in Brooklyn. There's some pretty noteworthy inmates. Remember that this is a facility that is now really the only facility that the feds use to house inmates because the one across the river in Manhattan was shut down after Jeffrey Epstein's suicide. So some notable people who've been held here include Sean Diddy Combs, El Chapo Guzman, and right now, obviously, Luigi Mangione, who is accused of shooting the United Healthcare CEO. He's also housed here at this facility. And it is, as I mentioned, not a very, it's known to be a very notorious place because it's, a former warehouse here on the the Brooklyn waterfront, and it is pretty much still, that's the way it is set up, as a warehouse. We know one of the things that they've done is they've set up a secure area for someone like Maduro, someone who requires a lot more security. Obviously, one of the big is to make sure that he is safe, that he is secure. Typically, he'll be held just in isolation by himself, as well as his wife, to make sure that he is safe while he goes through these court proceedings here in New York.
A heavy reinforced military presence on the Colombian side of the Colombia-Venezuela border. And you can see 3 armored vehicles here, a 4th over there. But it's not just military that has set up here on this side of the border, but also we're told humanitarian aid in case anything happens with regards to a rush of individuals coming here into Colombia. Now let me set the stage a bit for you. This is the border crossing where we are, Cucuta, Colombia. On the other side, you enter Venezuela. And you can see on a Sunday morning, traffic is moving rather calmly back and forth. This is pretty typical if you talk to locals. The only difference is the military presence and the press. And you've got many of individuals from media across Latin America who have set up here to get a sense of what could happen next. Now, Cucuta is really an interesting town in that this is a pressure valve, if you will, a real indicator of what could come next. This is a place that really saw a lot of the surge of outward migration from Venezuela in the past decade plus. Here in Colombia, you have the largest diaspora of Venezuelans, some 3 million according to some estimates. And of course, you had Venezuelans who passed through here to then continue up into Central America, through Mexico and into the US. Many of them we've met along the way in recent years. And a lot of them reference the instability, the uncertainty, the insecurity of living in Venezuela. So the folks here who have made their lives in Cucuta, for example, they were out in the streets late into the night. In fact, we touched down just before midnight, and folks were still out celebrating. You had families draping themselves in flags. There were a lot of emotions. People seemingly very happy. What's interesting is when you speak to those individuals, those who have been, say, 10 plus years out of Venezuela, say they have their lives here in Colombia. No matter what changes in Venezuela, they have no real desire to move back. But those who have been here less than that, and it seems to be a rough average of 10 years or so, say they do want to go home. They want to try to reestablish their lives. So this could be a place where we see a few things. You could see folks who are fearing the chaos, fearing more instability, fearing more fracturing coming from Venezuela into Colombia. You could also see those who are fearing retaliation because perhaps they're aligned with Maduro. Then on this side, you could see a reverse migration, folks who want to go home, want to go back to Venezuela, and this is where many of them would return on that crossing.